Hey guys, welcome back. bdckr here. This is our Q&A, season 2, episode 23. Starting off right into the questions. First one comes from Alan Ubaru, and they say, I don't think new players should get characters like that so easily. It's not fun that way. Do you understand my point? P.S. Injustice 2 is kinda hard.
Yeah, I guess I feel a little differently about that. I think, if anything, because how hard it is to get gold characters to start, that it's a nice way for new players to sort of just get right into it, right? I always hated when there was new content that you could see. That it's not like you weren't playing it, but it was there. You just couldn't get at it because, for whatever reason, you just didn't have the right qualifications.
Yeah, it doesn't feel too good, because especially when they're essentially doing is saying, here is a cool, interesting new thing, and it's a really cheap and easy way to get it, right? Essentially by playing the game, and then to say, oh, but you can't have it. I guess we should mention we're talking about challenge characters, right?
Yeah, and it's relevant too, actually. I've been playing Injustice 2 for a little bit, and I find that the most frustrating thing is how hard it is to get a gold character, and it really limits your progress. But I think we might just get into that a little bit later.
Because when you say, hey, this is a thing that's only going to be here for a little while, and then it's going to go away,
right?
And you see it, and you go, oh, I want it while it's here, and then they say, no, you haven't played enough yet. It's going to go away forever.
Right. Yeah, I think you've touched on like the key point for me is that because it's limited, if there was an opportunity to get it later or with some certainty,
if there was a way that like if you signed in during the event, you could queue it up to play later.
Yeah,
or something like that. Yeah. That would be fine. But the problem is, if you run out of time, you're out of time. So it's actually better if they let pretty much anybody get it with a certain amount of time investment, right? Just only doing that specifically. That's the ideal, I think.
The next cue from our Q&A comes from me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what did you think about our recent experience at YouTube Space Toronto, and the sort of connections that we made as far as what influence it had on our recent videos?
Oh, it was really cool. We met the musical creator. We got to put the musical stylings of a new person on one of our videos. We got to showcase them.
Postmodern disco.
Yeah, postmodern disco. And that was really interesting. I think we haven't really been able to take advantage of a lot of what YouTube Space is supposed to be about, which is letting YouTubers kind of connect and potentially collaborate on stuff.
Oh, right. Can you imagine going down to the studio so we could film something on our phone?
Oh, man, yeah.
Renting their studio space, sitting on their Canada 150 Years set, and just recording on our phones gameplay from Injustice.
But that was an opportunity for us to showcase a channel with less popularity, but that made really, really good content, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I mentioned this to them, but like the idea of creating music takes. I think it's partly a skill and partly an inspiration, and I think it would be very difficult for us to have enough of either of those things to create the kind of stuff that she does.
Oh, I guess I should point out for the people who don't understand or don't realize what we're talking about. In our recent 200 challenge pack opening video, we did use Postmodern Disco's song on that. And the biggest difference, I guess, is a lot of those pack openings use, or a lot of actually gameplay videos use royalty-free music. That's the term, right?
Yeah.
And which is fine, but I think it limits a bit your choices.
Yeah, and so we got to use a cool song by a cool person, and it sounded good. It worked. The rhythm was good.
What's interesting to me is just how the whole process works, too. So I know there's some people who listen to us who are sort of who aspire to having a popular YouTube channel. And what's interesting is maybe just understanding how when you use music, what happens. And I guess on our end, what we saw was, that was a phone call. We were just handling that. So what we saw was immediately when after you've uploaded the video, it triggers, during the processing time, it triggers a copyright claim from the distributor of the music. And your options, I mean, there's no problem. I mean, when people talk about using copywritten stuff and they're worried about getting strikes, that's not what happened. What it basically says is that during the claim, the claimant can put ads on your video and get all the ad revenue from them.
Yeah, and you have 30 days, not 30 months. You have 30 days to
Dispute the claim.
Dispute the claim, and then if you do, it sets this kind of timer where they have, I think, also 30 days to either accept or deny your claim, to essentially either let you get the money or for them to say, no, this is ours, you can't use it.
Right.
And so it was interesting because we obviously had permission directly from the artist. We didn't have any trouble directly, but it was interesting to see the system and see kind of how it.
Yeah, it's still a little bit. It's still a little bit weird because it wasn't even. I guess it was a bit of a learning experience for the artist too. It wasn't as transparent as it could have been as far as how to say to the publisher to say, hey, these guys are okay. You can go ahead and they can go ahead and use the music because I gave them permission. So you don't have to. I don't know what would their. You don't have to take their money from them. You don't have to squeeze them for that the few cents that they make out of this video.
Yeah, I was watching a video. One thing, Nintendo is really well known for being super like, it's not litigious, but like super kind of copyright claimy.
Hard ass, is that the term you're looking for?
Yeah, and so I heard people talking about that, where a lot of times when you have a Nintendo video, it gets claimed, and they say on one hand it's like, you know, you get it because it's their IP, right? And they're in the right to do that. But on the other hand, what they're essentially doing is taking small time YouTubers who are making Nintendo videos and then taking their money for Nintendo, right? So they were talking about, hey, what if Reggie had the money? Reggie Fils-Aimé is one of the people. What if instead of you having the money, Reggie had it and he had all of the money?
Why can't I have 3 monies and no kids?
Oh yeah, that's the Simpsons quote.
I don't know why
I
that
have
made
3 kids and no money. Why can't I have no kids and 3 money?
That's what made me think of that when you just said it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty cool, but it's still a little bit nerve-wracking. I mean, we're talking like small potato stuff, right? But when the artist tells us that, you know, she doesn't know what's happening with the claim, and it just, you know, a few days later it gets released and it's no problem and stuff. It's
interesting. There's definitely a breakdown of communication somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what YouTube could do about it. What impresses me is their waveform analysis.
Oh, right, that they can pick it up out of, really, in the middle of, out of all the different royalty or copywritten music.
Yeah.
They're comparing our video to everything.
And that's super impressive. The thing is, it can even be, if it's background, it just has to be over a certain volume. I know we got dinged once for Injustice's soundtrack.
Oh, right.
We actually have low to no music volume now, because one time it was a little louder than it usually was, and we actually got dinged. And that's incredibly impressive. Like, there's something kind of scary about that. Like, every time you use just a little bit too much of somebody else's music, you never know when they're going to bring the hammer down.
So what I want to know is why the recognition can't do a better job at our captions.
I guess so.
So we don't say that we're pickling the frog or...
Well, because I think for music, you're looking for pretty close to an exact match. You're essentially looking for an exact match with whatever degree of what they consider like acceptable, like differential for like static or like somebody else's voice over it. But I guess for captions, you're looking at like actually evolving stuff.
Well, but see, when they compare it to so many, like such a huge library of music, you'd think that they could compare each word the same way.
But they don't actually know the words in each library of music. That's the thing.
No, I mean the words, instead of comparing it to music, compare it to words. Like the different ways people can say certain words.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about the YouTube a lot of the stuff that YouTube does is they're putting a lot of the work into actually like just totally algorithms. So this is maybe not exactly related to waveform analysis and all that stuff, but they talk about how the recommended tab in YouTube is almost 100% algorithm. It's basically a black box that says, hey, value watch time and nothing else. And some of the reasons why recommendations are a little bit busted is because it doesn't actually have the complexity to look at other stuff. This is 100% Tom Scott. This is not like an original idea. So the reason why a lot of things are the way they are on YouTube right now is because while it's still an algorithm, it's really easy to manage, and even if it doesn't work well for everybody, it makes YouTube like very little, like has a very small amount of legal responsibility, whereas as soon as they start curating it, they're like publishers of content, and they actually are like open to lawsuit. Anyways, that's totally Tom Scott. That's
yeah, Tom Scott, we recommend him. I guess
Tom
we can.
Scott's so smart.
Remember, we'll
so
put a link in the video to some of his other stuff.
But so there's some interesting stuff with YouTube. But anyways, that's not the big news. I guess the big news is Injustice 2, right?
Right. So it was the hard launch. So there was a soft launch in the Philippines and then subsequently Australia, and we've had a ton of questions on our videos and also on our channel about whether we're going to be doing Injustice 2 videos and whether we're going to be going over Injustice 2 glitches.
And the short answer is probably not.
For glitches, I mean, it's set up differently so that you have to play online, and those kind of games make it a lot harder to have glitches. But I mean, if we find it, for sure we're gonna do something.
Yeah,
but
so
it seems unlikely.
Or more likely if somebody else finds it and tells us about it. We're unlikely to be the ones finding it.
Because I've been playing it for a bit, and I touched on this a little bit with Alan's question. It's that it is. There's just so many things to do, and I guess if there's interest, let us know in the comments. If there's interest in just informational videos that don't have to do with glitches, we might be tempted to do something.
Yeah.
But if it's, I'm not gonna kid myself into thinking that the glitches aren't important, because I think they're the biggest draw on our channel, even though there aren't a lot recently. But there might not be the same kind of value in doing the Injustice 2 sort of instructional and informational videos. Although, gotta tell you, it took me a bit of play to figure out what all the different things meant. Like, you know, the SIM cards and the different currencies, like gems and credits. And then there's, like, the credits that you get from arena play.
Yeah, it is very much a bloated game.
Yeah, it's a little... And in some ways, it's almost overwhelming, because not only do you have all that, like, so you have to manage your resource, your biggest resource being time, but you also have to learn a new fighting system.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I talk about this way too much for how unrelated it is, but there's something really, really nice about simpler currency systems, right? Where Injustice does a pretty good job. Dark Souls just has souls for everything. There's just one currency system. I think that's a lot, like, kind of more user-friendly.
And I could even live with that. When I said it before, and I think people asked about this, was what do I mean by it's not as responsive? So to me, the play matters a lot. And when I say not responsive, because when you go up, it's a jump forward and kick. When you go down, it's a sweep. And when you go forward, it's a rush and an attack, as opposed to just a tap attack.
Yeah.
And what I find a little bit frustrating about that is essentially when you're doing jumping or rushing or sweeping, it amounts to a combo. So when you do the action, it doesn't happen quickly enough. Whether there is or it just feels like it feels like there's a huge amount of lag between the time you want to do something and when it actually happens. And so there's combos and stuff, and that's great, but then you're having to learn how to do a sequence of taps even though you're not seeing it show up on the screen yet. So that's a starting point. Like I said, if you're interested in seeing that, let us know in the comments, and you might be able to convince us, because I'm definitely playing it now. I'm not having nearly as much fun, but that might be partly the issue with how hard it is to get gold characters, which would make it easier, or even promoting the silvers, which would make it a lot more fun and a lot easier to get further in the game.
So I guess short answer to that question is probably not for glitches, but maybe, and probably not just on our own behalf for gameplay, but maybe, but that part's kind of up to you.
You know what I do like about it? Operations. But maybe we'll talk a bit more about that next time.
Yeah. Anyways, that was the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.